Snipers, you have to see what's happening to the Bitcoin price this Thursday as we come into the weekend. Bitcoin has currently started to dump. I'm going to go ahead and actually just remove this green screen here. There's really no point. It's actually making my eyes. This is actually an emergency video today. And so I'm going to go ahead and actually announce this on our Discord here as well. This is a very momentous time for Bitcoin. We need to talk about what's happening to this chart. I'm going to go ahead and announce this on our Discord because we're going to do some really deep technical analysis and really talk about what this means for Bitcoin in the immediate short term, because of course the Trick, Trap, and Frustrate crew came in at market close when it comes to TradFi, traditional markets dumped, and that is now causing Bitcoin to breach below 41,950, the most important level for Bitcoin right now. And this can potentially lead us towards levels below the $40,000 area. Let me go ahead and announce this. And let's just quickly dive into what's happening so far here with price action, because this truly is an emergency video. I see we have Tommy, Malik, Trask, Leanne, Tower, Bruce on. Sorry, the green screen makes my eyes look as if they're see-through, and so I haven't had the chance to change it, so I just took the green screen down. But let's go ahead and just kind of cover exactly what's happening to Bitcoin right now. Let me just get these computers set up here. So first and foremost, this is an ugly 4-hour candle. This right here is called the Trick, Trap, and Frustrate crew. More than anything, we're coming below 41,950 right now. So what we have to expect is the potential at this point that Bitcoin is going to test levels beyond the $40,000 support level, potentially towards 38,000 to the $34,788 level. Now, a lot of people are monitoring this area here around 38,000, and so we have to also keep in mind that the worst downside that is on the table in the short term, immediate short term for Bitcoin, would be the $33,000 level. And I say that because we have market structural support here that has yet been tested. If we were to actually just go into the 6-hour chart, notice how this market structural support has only been tested twice so far, and there wouldn't necessarily be an issue with Bitcoin coming down to 33,000 at this point and staying in a macro bullish trend. But in the immediate short term, there is certainly a potential downside scenario right now that I think is becoming more and more likely, especially as the cards are starting to unfold. We are seeing the cards being dealt right now, and it's clear that Bitcoin could potentially at this point breach back below 40,000 US dollars. We know the first time that we came below 40,000 US dollars, we saw institutional buy pressure, but it didn't print on the 6-hour time frame. We could still consider all of the volume so far that we've seen in the 6-hour time frame to be sell pressure. We haven't seen buy pressure equate to the amount of sell pressure that we've seen around this $41,950 level. And so because of that, there is certainly a potential at this point that we have to get below 40,000 in order for us to trigger more volume, and preferably institutional type of volume, which if we're going to be monitoring the 6-hour chart, it's not going to just come up on a 6-hour candle. It's going to start on the smaller time frames. And so when we go into the 15-minute chart, notice how when traditional markets started to slip and the increase of sell pressure came in, there wasn't enough buyers to hold the price at 41,950. And that's why it was literally the exact moment that we crossed below 41,950 that the institutional sell pressure came in, because they already knew 41,950 was the major level. This was obviously a long squeeze. The shorts made out quite well here, and that's totally fine. It's cool that we're seeing the cards unfold at this point, but unfortunately, it looks like to me that we're most likely going to be seeing Bitcoin cross back below 40,000. And that could happen here within the next hour, the next 4 hours, potentially even the next 6 hours. But we are at a very fragile point The 6-hour candle also does not look too good here. This was a very big bearish engulfing candle. And I think that if we were to start looking at some of the other outside revolving parts, we can get some hints as to what's happening here. So notice here on the total cryptocurrency market cap chart, I see we have Vincent, Benjay, Tower. By the way, I'm going to ask you guys a question on the live chat. What long position entries are you guys looking at right now, by the way? So if you have a buy limit order set on exchange, or if you were to set a buy limit order right now for Bitcoin, what price are you guys looking at to acquire Bitcoin if we were to dump, if we were to see some sort of capitulation move? I just want to hear your guys' thoughts in the live chat, and then we'll cover some of your guys' potential entries there. I'm going to talk about what my potential entries are going to be here. But first, I want to address this daily candle for the total market cap. Closed with an extremely bearish test of the previous weekly open, and we saw a bearish tail pointing down with this body. This, to me, right here is a puzzle piece that we are ready to potentially come and test 1.78 trillion for the total market cap, but potentially find some support here around 1.6 trillion, where we have market structural support. And the significance of this channel that you're seeing here right now, and by the way, that would only imply that we have about a 16% downside potential for the total market. So we could potentially see many altcoins, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, come down about 20% if this is going to play out. But the reason this support level at 1.6 trillion is significant is because we took the two most important parts of this chart, which was the higher high that the total market cap formed, the two highs that were formed, and this parallel channel, you can see the midpoint shows a lot of confluence with how price action has in the past found resistance, has found support. You can see this area in the past has acted as support, resistance, and so this right here looks like the valid count, or at least the valid channel that we're in, because it's a very subjective channel. Every parallel channel is very subjective, but the significance of this is I took the two highs, the higher high that formed, and so if that were to play out, then you can see here 1.6 trillion is probably where we would end up. And that makes sense because you guys know the red lines on our chart are the most important here in the Snipers channel. And we have a large range between 1.78 trillion and 1.1 trillion. I certainly do not believe that the crypto market cap will come down towards 1 trillion ever again, actually. And so I think that the most amount of downside we could see right now in the overall market is about a 16% downside scenario, with the $1.6 trillion level acting as a major support. And so when it comes to entries for Bitcoin, somebody said 36.1K, somebody said 32 to 38K, Benny said 32K. Let's see, Rafat is looking for entry at 33,000. Titan Ben is looking for an entry at 32,000. So it looks like a lot of you guys are looking at entries in the low 30s. Some people are looking at 38,000, like Sean Leroy. I know a lot of big YouTubers have been talking about the $38,000 level. I'm going to talk about how I'm going to play this, how we're going to play it on our Discord, of course, and when I plan to send out a trade signal. So I'm going to be watching specifically this total market cap. And if we do see a capitulation, let's just assume that we have a bearish daily candle that closed yesterday, and now we have this new daily candle, and at any point we could see some downside. I'm going to be watching where Bitcoin is at if we see the total market cap get towards 1.6 trillion. That's going to be the level that I'm going to monitor. And I say that because you can see that $1.6 trillion level, it's sort of the midpoint of this range between 1.78 trillion and 1.13 trillion. You guys know on the separate channel, the midpoint of a large range typically acts as a support on the initial test. And so I couldn't see the market cap really going below 1.5 trillion at this point. And so I'm going to be watching where Bitcoin's price is at. And let's say we see about a 16% downside scenario with Bitcoin. Where does that put Bitcoin on the US dollar valuation? Let's see. Well, look at that. Shows confluence with that total market cap for Bitcoin to come down to that support level that we talked about, around 33,000 US dollars. So that's the area that I'm going to be watching. Of course, It could reverse before that, 38,000, 36,500, 34,788. Those are the numbers that you have to keep on your charts. Those are the major levels. Sean says, but my alts have already been down 85%. How much lower could we go? Well, once again, we're in deep value territory. And so this isn't the time to be selling. This is the time to look for long positions, in my opinion. Of course, the shorts got the nice end of the stick with this reversal. Last minute, traditional finance came down and it slipped, and we saw the rug get pulled today, right? And so, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, we have to realize how oversold we truly are. And at any point in time, even if we see that capitulation move come in, we could reverse back to the upside really fast. And so we want to start looking at long positions and potential targets for the downside for us to be entering into positions. That's the best thing to do in a time like this. I personally do not believe Bitcoin can get below 33,000 if we start to see 40,000 break. I think that this is going to have to act as a support level just based on the amount of volume we have here. If we pull the VPVR, notice how much volume is down at this $33,000 level. If we were to breach below 33,000, that would be a huge concern for me. I just don't see it as a possibility. Of course, there's always a possibility. If we were to breach that level, we can talk about 28,000, but I'm not even going to put that on the table. I don't believe that's going to happen. I think for the most part, we can see with this VPVR, the volume comes down to 33,000. So there's a potential we see some liquidations come into the market. We see this push down, and that would be totally fine in the macro for Bitcoin to stay in a bullish trend overall. When we look at the weekly chart, let's say we were to come down to that $33,000 level, you can see we'd still be above this 100-week moving average, which is sitting right at 31,500. So that would probably be the peak of a capitulation downside target, in my opinion. That 100-week moving average. It is certainly not time for Bitcoin to come and test the 200-week moving average. I do not believe that's the case. It's sitting at the previous all-time high. And so that's just potential downside that's on the table. Sorry, I just came back from the gym, had to get this video out. I didn't even get to set things up. It's just, we're at such a critical time right now. And so why is this happening, right? Well, look what happened to the S&P 500. Coming down to test the 200-day moving average for the first time in a very long time. I mean, the last time we came down to this 200-day moving average was right after the March 2020 drop, right? So we came down. This was the whole panic drop that we saw in March of 2020, and then we haven't touched that 200-day moving average since June of 2020. We've stayed in an uptrend since then, but right now, with the Feds announcing potential interest rate hikes, with Biden having a very disappointing year. It was the first time that he was on a podium for over 2 hours on a single speech since the start of his presidency. And that happened today. And, it's just been quite a disappointing term, at least for this first year. Is that the reason we're seeing this slippage? Certainly could be one of the reasons. We have yet to touch the 200-day moving average of the S&P 500, which is something to know, because that could imply that there's either a little bit further downside or even potentially this could actually be a bullish move here, that we dodge this 200-day moving average, we don't test it, and we continue further up. So what we're going to be monitoring the Snipers channel for damn sure over the next week is going to be this S&P 500. There's really only 1 day left. I don't believe tomorrow's a holiday, and so we need to watch this chart tomorrow. Another chart that we've been monitoring very closely is the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. Unfortunately, it is starting to turn bearish, and this is very, very this is a very big puzzle piece because until now we've been very bullish on altcoins. It's just been the nature of this market. We've been extremely bullish, and so at this point, I would say with the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, we are approaching some extremely important levels, and the daily candle just does not look too good from yesterday. Once again, a very bearish daily candle. Looks like the body wants to come down and test this 200-day moving average. And so At this point, I am going to say that it looks like there's going to be a potential slowdown here for the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. That could slow down the Ethereum to US dollar price. You can see we're testing 3,000 US dollars right now. The next major level is going to be 2650 for Ethereum. But realize this, I added this red line quite recently, and so we can even just change this to I wouldn't change it to yellow, because yellow is always going to be the previous market cycle all-time high on our charts. And so let's just actually remove this line. Realize that with Ethereum being below 34.54, this we've talked about many times in the past. If we're below 34.54, the only real next level of support I would say is around the $2,000 level. And you can see that would also be confluent with this market structural support. And so it wouldn't be a surprise to see more downside for Ethereum if we were to see Bitcoin come down and capitulate for the short term. And so we have to expect 2,200 to potentially be the max downside scenario, I would say, for Ethereum. And I'm not trying to be bearish, but I have to put out these downside targets when we see moves like this. It's just the nature of charts. We're starting to see downside, so we have to address the downside targets. And so I couldn't see Ethereum getting below 2,000 at this point in the short term if we were even to see a capitulation move. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the chat. What entries are you guys looking at for Ethereum? I'd love to hear your guys' potential entries if you guys were to set buy limits right now for Ethereum and we were to expect a massive dump in the market. Where are you guys looking to enter positions on Ethereum? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. AS in the live chat says, I'm buying at 10,000 finally. I don't think Bitcoin will ever come back below 20,000 US dollars, and I'll tell you why. There's never been a market cycle that Bitcoin has broke a previous all-time high and has come back down to that all-time high. If we look at the cycle in 2017-18, we only came back down to 3,000. We never came back down towards the $1,000 level, where that was when Bitcoin really broke through its previous all-time high. And the same deal with this market cycle. 20,000 was the previous all-time high from 2018. Once we break through, we enter into a new matrix. And so the most downside, and we talked about this when Bitcoin initially topped out here around 64,000, and we identified the top by looking at the gold to Bitcoin chart. We said that the max downside scenario would be around the $26,000 to $29,000 level, because we did not expect Bitcoin to come back down towards the previous all-time high, even from that initial top. And so I would not be trying to look for positions at $10,000. You're going to be looking for a very long time. It would certainly take a massive black swan event, an asteroid that is larger than Earth hitting Earth for something like that to happen. So that would totally be off the table. Real Soak says, crazy that we're in a bear market. Well, realize this. If we want to consider this a bear market, we could actually be a little bit more positive, because if this were to be the bear market, we are closer to the end than we are to the start. And I say that because I am not going to consider the $69,000 top as the start of this bear market. I would consider the initial high as 64,000, the start of this bear market, which means we've pretty much already been through a year of the bear market, because this higher high was totally expected. For those that have been tuned into our channel, I talked about the scenario before Bitcoin crossed 49,700. Go on to our YouTube page, youtube.com/snipers, click community. And matter of fact, I'll show you the prediction we made. And we straight up said Bitcoin was going to go form a